one of my favorite modules, food to eat for energy. Who doesn't want more energy? Anybody who's watched a young person, usually a toddler or 3 to 7 to 8-year-old, they are literally bouncing off the walls with energy. I want that. I want that for you. And one of the things we can do to eat for optimal energy is to change up our fuel, if you will, our foods. Aloha, Dr. Thomas Hemingway here. So excited to share this message with you. Once again, this module is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is not medical advice. This does not create a doctor-patient relationship. I always recommend you talk with your physician or healthcare provider about any significant change in practice or medication or anything like that related to your health. And remember, this is just for education and information purposes only. So let's get into it. Let's talk about food. Food as medicine, food as energy is what the focus is on today. And it's not what you might think. You might think energizing foods are going to be those that are the quick fix carbohydrates or those that have caffeine, if you will, excuse me, not so fast. In fact, one of the best ways to get energy starting early, excuse me, early in the morning is how you start your day. And traditionally, we, especially here in America, we have sadly a really not so awesome tradition in the last 100 years of the so-called delicious and nutritious breakfast cereals, the high carbohydrate breakfast full of processed sugars, grains, whether it be pastries, donuts, breads, toast, scones, bagels, whatever these things are, the highly processed carbohydrates are probably the absolute worst way to start your day. If you want a guaranteed roller coaster ride through dips and valleys and peaks and with your glucose and your energy, start your day with carbs. I would not recommend it. Do not start your day with highly processed carbs, and actually do the opposite of that. Start your day with the satiating foods that are protein rich and have healthy fats. Ditch the carbs entirely at your breakfast meal or your break the fast meal, whatever time of day that happens to be for you. If you do eat carbs at all in your first meal, eat them at the end of the meal and don't eat the highly processed ones. Those highly processed ones that we've talked about before with the big three, the highly processed grains and flours, the highly processed sugars, and the seed oils, avoid them like the plague. Eat whole foods, real foods, single ingredient foods, especially those with natural protein sources and natural healthy fat sources. And that's going to be the way to go. So how do I start my day eating for energy? Well, I ditch all of those highly processed carbohydrates. I rarely have a piece of toast unless it's sprouted and ancient grains and refrigerated. I'm pretty picky about any kind of bread product. Here in the US, I eat almost none. It's hard to find good quality stuff, but I start my day with protein. Prioritize your day with protein. Usually for me, that comes in the source of a couple of eggs, some kind of other protein source, whether I throw some cheese on my eggs, have a little leftovers from last night, a little edamame from last night that's got some pea, soy, whatever it happens to be from last night. Edamame is the soybeans, or if I have leftover peas or vegetables, what have you. I throw that in. I might make a breakfast omelet with all the leftovers from last night. Heck, if I have steak left over from the night before, maybe I cooked a grass-fed and finished ribeye or filet or something. I have leftovers. I'm going to throw it in there. I'm going to eat it for breakfast in the morning. It's actually a great hack for both saving time and for starting your day with protein. Protein is a great way to start your day. I throw in some healthy fats as well. My favorite go-to, many of you know, is the avocado. I love avocado. It's a mono unsaturated fat, and it is great, healthy. It's not going to clog up your arteries. It's going to give you healthy fat that will fuel you for much longer. If you eat a carbohydrate-laden breakfast, whether it be a breakfast cereal, a toast, bagel, a croissant, whatever that may be, within 2 or 3 hours, you're hungry again. It's a guaranteed. Remember that roller coaster? It peaks up the glucose and then the insulin, it takes a dip. And then an hour and a half to 2 hours later, you're already hungry for a snack. And one of the ways to stay energized is to not have that type of an eating pattern where you're eating every 2 to 3 hours. You're guaranteed to have dips and low energy, and then your energy comes up when you eat, and then it dips again. If you want to have an even keel energy throughout the day, you're going to focus on protein at every meal because protein is essential. Healthy fats at every meal. And then if you want to throw in some healthy carbohydrates as well, like vegetables and fruits, that's just fine too. But try to avoid the highly processed ones and the products that you'll be taking or are already taking that help keep your blood sugar nice and even keel and balanced without the big peaks and valleys. That will be helpful to you too. Primarily, those come in the slim products, the drink, either the HC, which is the hunger control slim. I tend to take that in the morning. The microbiome activating, I personally take that in the afternoon. Keeps my glucose real even keel, lots of energy all throughout the day. Because of that, I actually don't very often feel like snacking. But if I do feel like snacking, I'm going to focus on proteins, the healthy fats, and rarely will I have any carbohydrates for my snack. My go-to is either a half or a whole avocado as a snack or a handful of nuts. If I'm in Hawaii, I love macadamia nuts. They have lots of healthy fat in there. I love pistachios. I love cashews, almonds. A handful of nuts for me is all I need. And that's a good way to have a healthy snack that has both protein, some healthy carbohydrates, and fiber. And it's not going to cause these big roller coaster rides of glucose and corresponding insulin. So number one hack, ditch the sugar, ditch the highly processed carbohydrates, get rid of them. Have protein at every meal, healthy fat as well. You can have some carbs, but make them in the form of real food and eat them towards the latter half of your meal, especially if it's anything sweet like berries or fruit. Eat them towards the end of the meal. If you want to start your meal with vegetables, that's fine. Those usually have plenty of fiber. They don't typically spike the blood sugar. So they have it right in Europe where they have the antipasto, which is basically some sort of vegetable dish, salad, whatever, before the main course. Totally fine. In the US, we got it screwed up. We eat carbs first, right? They bring out the bread bowl or whatever, which is not awesome. If you want to have bread with your meal, eat it towards the end of the meal would be better, and make sure it's quality. Quality always trumps everything else. The quality of your food is everything. So specifically, the foods that increase your energy tend to be those that are whole, single ingredient foods, especially healthy proteins. For example, my go-tos are going to be eggs in the morning. Lunchtime, it may be chicken. It may be leftovers from the night before. For example, last night, we had one of my favorites, which is grass-fed and finished ribeye. I love that cut of meat. My wife had filet, and we had a little leftover, so I throw it in a salad. I eat it at lunch. I think it's great. Or if we have leftover fish, we often cook up salmon or tuna, fresh ahi if we're in Hawaii. Or if we have some shellfish that we cooked up, I'll throw it in a salad the next day. It's awesome. Protein at every meal, protein at every meal. And then you can throw in some other protein sources, even as like a little dessert, like Greek yogurt, for example. Lots of protein there, healthy. Throw in a couple of berries if you have that, to give you a little bit of sweetness. That's a good thing. I mentioned salmon and fish is a great way. Fibrous containing vegetables are great. They're not going to spike your blood sugar. Nuts, which have fiber in them, they're my go-to snack. If you have a little bit of a craving for a sweet tooth, what I do is I get cacao, the dark chocolate, and I'll have one little square of either 75% or more. I usually do about an 80% cacao dark chocolate. Take one square of that, a couple of macadamia nuts, and that's like the best of both worlds. I got something a little bit sweet, got the chocolate, and I got my macadamia nut, and I am golden for a few more hours. So if you do feel the urge to snack, totally fine, but choose something real, whole, and single ingredient, and try to ditch those traditional snack foods. Like what I used to do, I used to grab Snickers bar. Snickers really satisfies, right? Wrong. They put you on that roller coaster ride. You'll get that brief burst in your energy from the sugar. Like sugar will give you a brief burst. I mean, look at any kid that eats a bunch of sugar. They're going bananas and running around acting crazy. Trust me, I've had 6 kids. I know how that is. And then they crash out hard because then they dip and they just fatigue. So traditional snack foods, granola bars, those kinds of things are typically not that good. If you do use a protein bar or something, make sure you read the ingredients. Go back to the pantry purge module that is available and make sure that you're not having highly processed grains, highly processed sugars, seed oils, and that it passes the 5 ingredient rule. And you recognize the stuff that's in there. And if it passes that, has healthy, real food, go for it. But for the most part, I don't eat many protein bars. It's just hard to find good quality protein out there. There's a couple of little hacks too. If you need a quick boost, we have this amazing product called Active. It's one of my favorites because it's natural. It comes from, basically has some caffeine, but from the green tea leaf. It has the green tea. It also has caffeine from the green coffee bean. And you probably heard of green tea. Phenomenal for longevity. The EGCG that's in there, it's a great antioxidant. It also helps with energy, keeping you mentally sharp and focused. So this is a really cool product. I just try to not take it after about 2 or 3 p.m. because caffeine has a half-life of about 6 hours, which means that, by 8 p.m., I still have half of it in my system. And so it's going to take me until midnight or so to have it all out of my system. So I don't really generally tend to have any caffeine after about 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And everybody's different. We all metabolize caffeine a little bit differently. So keep that in mind. I tend to have my Active towards the beginning, like between 10 and 2 or about midday-ish. I used to have a little bit of a midday slump. So having the Active during about midday works amazing for me. And I love that it has the green tea. It also has the green coffee bean, so natural caffeine. It also has amino acids which support your activity and otherwise vitality. It's a really great product. I tend to probably every single day have it around midday. It's fantastic. I love it. But focusing on the foods that you eat during the day is super important. And basically just ditching the highly processed carbohydrates is number one. Ditching the sugar, highly processed carbs, substituting it with real food, primarily protein-packed real food, as well as healthy fats. Like I said, my go-to snack is an avocado or a handful of nuts. Throw in a square of chocolate and you are golden. And if you need that little tiny sweet treat, just do a handful of berries. I find those are super, super helpful. Bottom line is ditch the sugar, focus on real food. As you focus every meal on having protein, you'll find that you're not going to be as hungry between meals and you won't have to snack as often. I delay my breakfast usually for a couple of hours. I don't typically wake up hungry. So I always have about a 12 to 14 hour overnight fast. I'm not doing a super like high intensity 16, 18, 20 hour intermittent fast. I used to, but I found that I was having trouble getting enough protein in my diet. So now I do a minimum of 12 hours overnight, just a simple circadian fast. Sometimes I'll go 14, 16, just depends on how I feel. I eat when I'm hungry, but I always start my meal, my breakfast or my break the fast meal with protein. Pack it with powerful protein, prioritize that protein, and go with that from your first meal of the day. Don't eat a lot of carbs at the first meal. Ditch all the breakfast stuff, cereals and whatnot. And if you're going to have some carbs, eat them at the end of the meal. And then every single meal, you want to make sure you have about, hand or palm size of protein in that meal to get you satiated, to get you the essential amino acids that you need. Because remember, protein is essential. Carbohydrates, believe it or not, are actually non-essential. You could live without really any carbohydrates or very, very small amount. I don't recommend that. I love healthy carbohydrates in the forms of vegetables and fruits, and nuts have some carbs too. They also have protein. I'm all for the healthy, real foods, but ditching the sugar, you'll find your energy levels will be tremendously better. And with these products that you're taking, this whole system, focusing on gut health, you won't even be craving those sweet treats. But if you do like a little cacao, 1 square of cacao with a handful of nuts, an amazing treat. Having berries at the end of the meal, little Greek yogurt and berries, that's my favorite go-to little sweet treat. If you want a little extra, drizzle a little honey on top, fabulous. But focus on real foods, ditch the sugar, ditch the processed foods, the big 3 that I always talk about, and then throw in an active sometime during midday or even in the morning. It's a great way to get your day started. It's worked amazing for me, and it's real natural ingredients. There's no fake caffeine in there. It's not from a chemistry lab. It's from green tea. Green tea is great. Lots of antioxidants, and the green coffee bean fantastic sources of natural caffeine, also some natural amino acids in there. So I personally use that almost every single day. I love it. And I'm sure you are trying it or will try it soon. I think you'll find it beneficial. If it's a little bit too much of a boost for you, you can do half of one of the sticks. You don't have to do the whole stick, but do what works for you. And remember to focus on real food. And if you do feel the need to snack between meals, like I said, over time, as you adjust your diet and you eat protein at every meal, you'll be less likely to want to snack. But when you do, if you seek real food snacks like protein, like nuts, seeds, real food type stuff, if you want a little sweet, like I said, the berries or what have you, real food snacks are going to be the way to go. They'll satiate and you won't have that big drop afterwards like I used to have whenever I had a Snickers bar. So eating for energy is really eating real whole foods. That is the trick. And trying to eat at meals primarily, not snacking too much. And if you do need a little snack, as long as it's a real whole food snack, that's just fine. So those are my tips. They've worked tremendously well for me and thousands of others. I hope you find this useful. But energy is possible. Vitality is possible. I'm turning 50 next year, and I am as active and vital as I was in my 20s. I can keep up with my teenage boys that they have lots of energy, but I can match them at everything. I don't have any issues keeping up with them at any sport, any hike, any surf, any whatever it is. No problem, because I'm eating for energy with healthy real foods, proteins and clean fats like avocados primarily, and then some carbohydrates in the form of fresh vegetables, fruits, nuts, and seeds. And it has served me very, very well. And these products complement all of that. And with that blood sugar balance that we've been talking about with the Slim, both hunger control and microbiome activating with the chromium there, phenomenal for energy. Sustained blood sugar is sustained energy. The peaks and valleys that you have with the highly processed, American diet, the SAD diet that is out there, the standard American diet, not awesome. But these nutritional supplements that you're being exposed to now will help you to not even crave those processed fake foods. You'll want real food. You'll actually be asking for vegetables. You'll be like, hey, I would love some asparagus today, some Brussels sprouts, an avocado, like whatever that is. You'll be surprised how quickly your cravings can change, how you can eat for energy and vitality. So it is possible. And these products just make it a little bit easier. So I hope you found that helpful. Can't wait to share with you more in the next module. Aloha.